The Curious Residency of WILHUFF DREDMORE, written by the novelist. The only prevalent thought of relevancy in his mind was that he wanted to die, to become adrift in new residency. Part 1. The Cycle. It was a bleak day, that much was certain, but so was every preceding day that had come before it. Unbearable, how the night transpired. I found myself wasting away through an unease of soul and headaches, nauseous from my mistakes that led me here. Undesirable conditions where life has flocked against me and I but a failure. Weak in my mastery of more common life endeavors. My head is pounding now. There really was a knock at the door, my perception. Death, where I once thought life. The curious thing about Mr. Dredmore was that he never found residency, despite the might and will he strived to create it. Aimless, with lack of place in this world, a grid he deemed unfit to house his awareness. He failed, and his life was a constant stream of failures. This he could no longer deny as thoughts once again returned to the light of his life. She should be there now, even still, walking this path beside him. Yet he could not find company in her. Tried to tuck away the very thought, imprison such notion, but found another reminder as his eyes glanced across the street to the theatre, whose entryway held a marching couple arm in arm, past the ticket booth, the place where he should meet her, through the entryway. The town faced the edge of a waving plain where, after some distance, the turbulent dunes quelled to even ground, and with great contrast between this space and the canopy of dark stars, met the start of dense forest, where unknown things lurked in its deep recess. The church bell across the way towered over the city as WILHUFF contemplated leaving the Gothic decor and its chime to vacate the imposing town in favor of the still rhythm of death. They say the coward is one who takes this early exit, but rather, did he find, the true coward was the one who perpetually sought such definite leave, yet unable to procure the means or method to realize it. "I'm sick of this shit," he muttered, as the following were thoughts he pondered, such considerations, laced with torment. The filth of this city as it deteriorates, politicians and other villains who only serve a clandestine group with grim intentions. People have fallen ill to the satanic spirit of material above communal concerns. Their apathy and self-perceived righteousness in their wake of stupidity shows. Malignant minds, morons and pretenders, know-it-alls, yet they stumble in their sickening slumber. Unconscious zombies as they seek to procure stimulation of their weak frames of flesh and bone. Their drugs and their parties, and as consequence, criminality now rules my home. Is it distaste to have little to negligent faith, or shall I rely on the 1% notion, the odd variable, the invisible needle in this haystack that might form this place to what it ought to be? The stupefied masses, poor goods and ill services. I can't even claim a hot cup of coffee, let alone a proper mix, yet now its cost is that of 3. Should I take my wife that never finds time to accompany me to dinner, I shall pay the cost of 5 meals, and its intake shall hardly be delightful. I'm on an endless loop, the values I seek. I have become a ghost in this world, haunted by the shell I once found comfort in. It was then WILHUFF caught the attention of an approaching man in a pale coat, who, coming to an abrupt halt, stopped to confront him. "WILHUFF. Ah, Mr. Kensington, what a pleasure it is to run upon you here. I was about to send you my letter." "Ah, yes, don't bother. We've studied our candidates thoroughly and have decided to go with another." "We had a contract," WILHUFF replied. "You must have yet to read the fine print, Mr. Dredmore. There is a relevant clause I shall invoke. Theretofore you are dismissed. Consider the nature to the terms of our agreement over. Best of luck to you now, sire." And the man tipped his hat and gracefully paced away. WILHUFF growled angrily before turning to resume the path at his stead. I should resort to a deeper canyon, but now all my vices fail to sedate me, and I wander these streets with the dread of my name. Dead intentions that I might be struck from this place and the lengths of this cruel observatory. Not quite the blasphemer. I'd used to pray for answers, but now content by silence. I will no longer intend to ever again open a dialogue, and upon my inevitable exit, I will turn my back on him and face the empty, infinite abyss alone. For this maker who seeks to test me does little more than prey upon me, arrest my dreams and ambition, watching my spirit writhe and crawl where I once held genuine concern. I made my final approach, and the theatre now stood before me. My wife was not present, hardly a surprise, and I proceeded into the entry, waving my ticket and concealing the grim misfortune in my eyes from the past master through black circular oculars which prohibited any contact between my soul and observer. The theatre was mostly dark, yet ambient bulbs illuminated the way. I didn't care for the concession stand, though this area I always favored. I'd probably catch a shy duration of the showing before discontent would stir, and I would be forced to leave this place. Energy in motion, movement to incur distraction, and inevitably sway my unease through focus on moving patterns as I would continue to walk the city. I sat 3/4 to the rear in a dark and nameless row. Not many were unaccompanied, and yet it was there I sat, alone. There was a strange echo in the viewing chamber. It seemed to permeate from the winding hall leading in, and I remembered the ghoulish ticket master, his long top hat and toothy grin like he had no lips or cheeks to conceal such chin, and its wide and permanent smile. I am losing it. WILHUFF considered, and as I sat back, I shrugged away the ghastly parade forming, redirecting my mind to the premiere now showing. It began in a way they always do now. No captivating moment or inspirational scenario, just ill humor and subtle blasphemies against the communal man and a deity I no longer cared for. It made no matter, I no longer wished to defend the folk in my literature, or make a case for the implications of this permanent divine observer hidden beyond the cloudy atmosphere and celestial forms. I swallowed my rising distaste, unsure of what even led me to this place. Perhaps the promise she would show, but I knew better, yet always clinging to that odd variable. The slight potential that some detail of my life would alter its trajectory for the better. It was no sooner that 15 minutes in, when shadows at the corners of the far end started to stir, urges and incentives to leave began rising. I shifted uncomfortably over the course of following minutes until finally I picked myself up and walked the red carpet toward the winding hall. It seemed to glow, but I have not a sound mind, but one of warring thoughts against emotions, declaring me foolish for having gave in to such an attempt at leisure and company in the first place. Failed on both fronts, I found my way back to the theatre entry. I looked for the past master, but only saw a dark booth inhabited by cobwebs and their peculiar crawlers. I proceeded out into the street, and it felt like death was following me, yet every time I turned around, there was no thing trailing behind me. Not even he should accompany me. Great, I considered. I sighed and I shivered. As WILHUFF continued forward, a short man in a brown business suit and round bowler hat passed him by, and Mr. Dreadmore jumped inside at the sudden appearance. "You're pathetic, of no value or significance," he heard the stranger say, moving past him. But then WILHUFF realized the man was talking to himself, and as he turned again to glance at the odd fellow, he saw no pedestrian present. I must have had 2 drinks too many, WILHUFF considered, but that was a lame statement, for there were not enough drinks in this city that could retard his mental gymnasium and the uneasy chatter that claimed it. He decided it more practical in his pursuit of mindfulness to abandon his walk along the town plaza and head into the rolling grassy dunes, the opposite side. He would tread deeper into this wake and find comfort along the silent nature beneath observing stars. Crossing the road, he felt a familiar presence, as if he was still being pursued. Yet still there was nothing there. The uneasy, invisible man still on mine, WILHUFF quickened his pace but found a lack of footing as his gaze immediately looked upon the pavement. Rolling colored spheres dismounted his footing. Panic-ridden, still shaken as he noticed 3 young kids laughing in their game of marbles, he bellowed an impatient growl. "Geez, mister," a little girl said. "Watch where you're walking," a boy added. "The street is not your playground," he said through clenched teeth. "Little devils," he muttered, pacing quicker now. He trudged deep into the fields. Maybe he would find her here strolling. "Yeah, that's a belief," WILHUFF said, and a laugh served as relief. He would see nothing but trees and perhaps few winged friends as bats flew past overhead and the moon illuminated their tiny geometry. The waving plain was serene. WILHUFF emptied his thoughts and focused on his breath. A small measure of solace was found, but slowly escaped him as shallow movements in the brush ahead caused alert and heightened focus to demolish these tranquil moments. He found it difficult to walk now and look down, heart rising. It was a force in his throat as he choked upon fear. Crawling, slimy, elongated fingers reached and gripped for his feet and ankles. These many arms and the 1,000 dead, purplish fingers etched their way to stake new claim, as their intent was to pull him into the grimy patch of landscape beneath. He gasped and he heaved and eventually stopped moving, prohibited from advance from the sticking grips, tendrils that seemed to demolish his motions, stabbing, pain-inhibited reflexes, and he screamed in the detainment, drawing a deep breath. "Why have you declared me enemy?" he shouted, angry at the stars. He slumped forward, his foundation incoherent, losing all sense of balance and body placement. His eyes targeted the horrible things, demonstrators of a dead dimension, demanding assimilation with a communal which left him mortified. As he breathed, he studied closer. The bleeding motion settled, and he saw that it was a muddy terrain, escalated in rising and sinking elevations. This outing would hold no satisfactory escape or break from the confines that ruled him. In a swift instant, that presence was there, so real, it brought a new grip that paralyzed him. From head to toe, it was every attempt to shake away the ice of the fear, as from head to toe his body was petrified electric. Through a will beyond, he strained to move his neck and saw behind him, and there it was. Nothing. Taking several deep breaths, his pulse catching up with the realization that he stood there, a fool and alone. His frozen body loosened, and he shook away the discomfort. "Fine. That is enough. I am going home. I have no more room for ill moments as I wander these grounds." And WILHUFF turned back, his black cloak swirling behind him as he stomped back to the streets of the city stretch, using his cane as leverage from the stalking, grasping ground, demanding he join the infinite particles in dreamless sleep beneath. The Curious Residency of WILHUFF DREDMORE. The most curious thing about Mr. Dredmore was that he never found residency, despite the might and will he strived to create it. Part 2. The Reckoning. There was a strange quake-centered chest and vibration upon his ribs, but the most grueling ache came from behind his forehead as brass mechanics unlocked the rivets of the door and he proceeded inside. The floor creaked, the door clicked behind him, and he stood still in darkness, moments however long, and the weight and the flashbacks and all motions of emptiness sat inside him in those few moments in eternity. Eventually, he carried himself along those strange parcels of shadow that seem to unfold from their collective entropy as they trail in unending chase upon ceiling and wall space through the lengths of his walk along the hall. They whispered in strange dialects, scrambling lazy at first, but then with an effort that seemed to mark the shadows from dull illuminations to vibrating spectacles of black static, becoming all the more real in each passing instant, lucid and aware, merging from wall upon the very every space surrounding him. The sensation of such presence of observation, it was only you and them, and all other surroundings and circumstance ceased to exist. He barely noticed because this time, upon this return, he no longer cared to imagine such entertainment, such passing, temporary spectacle. "I'm sick of this shit," he muttered. But all dreams, ambitions, and wit's end and breathing entailed he was still trapped in this place, material's world captive, and a prisoner to its rude and unusual lesson. Grim scenarios of sensory theatres once again pressed his mind and body, physical unease and thoughts of unbecoming. It was one sour parade, this affair, and he declared it with such elegant relevancy, perceptions he carried through such misfortune and heartache. As I stopped thinking, I entered my study. I preferred it here at this place. These books were all glances to a realm I found more relevant than my own, but I noticed strange silhouettes caressing the far corners of my sanctuary. They seemed to claw at me in cold regard. I shivered. This black canyon of fear went right through me, vibrating my bones. The evil cold spawned from a small ache within. My whole body was electric with freezing fear. Similar to my scenario in the grassland, yet never had I felt my form with such distinct entirety, such clarity, from the top of my head to the bottom of my motionless feet. Every resource held full awareness, and all I could do was stare. Alien in their hues, they seemed to motion and beckon behind me. What were they? Was this the emanation of that feeling of pursuit through the city? It was as I turned, there she stood. Lord Dreadmore, I welcome you home. Eviania, you never showed. You were looking for me in all the wrong places, she said. We agreed upon the hour, upon location. No, WILHUFF, it's what you wanted, not what was once natural. What are you talking about? You have abandoned your spirit, the dedication to your mission, and as consequence, I have left you for it. WILHUFF was still as clearly he considered her words. His eyes echoed with frustration. You are my spirit, he declared, slowly at first, then exclaimed in rage at the unable relay of his affections. I have never abandoned you. You chose your vices over connecting with me. I cannot comply with that state of mind. I cannot relate. WILHUFF grew impatient, stepping few spaces quick and commanding, closing the distance. He came to rest 10 feet before her, placing his fist upon the end table, tight enough to channel his rage. The other, fingers tucked into the lining of his suit vest pocket. Top hat firm and in place, he gazed at her through a bronze monocle, whose lens faintly mirrored her image, and the beautiful flowers with small vases that decorated the lounge. Its chain, carried sideways and draping around his cheekbone, inclined up behind his ear. Is this what you wanted? To show me such anguish? Leave me to pain, refrain me from your hand, WILHUFF said, accusing. But now he said softly, where did you think I would go? You have failed to connect with him yourself. You must do what you please. But I suggest you do it soon. He's been waiting for us, and he keeps asking about you. Who? This, you know. I think you retain some idea, she said, and he heard the bright light calling. Somehow, he knew it would appear before he physically saw it, but a tranquil measure opened an imprint of light, a long pillar of a display whose personification of coming to being synonymously equaled and surpassed, rivaled the awe of the imagery that began to form within. And it was as he gazed, such luminance formed a vast, surreal, unending place. Movements shimmered, geometries of architectures and landmass rippled in, but something pulled him back, some sinking well from deep inside. He could not place it, and he turned from this wonder to favor the sweet melody of inspiration. He could not live without her, as his eyes peered upon the rows of his study, all the knowledge, all the stories. I'm glad you are home now. Come, my muse, we have work to do. You will not hear me here, she pleaded, palms pressed together. He turned to look at her, disbelief in his eyes. What do you want from me? He cried. I want you to acknowledge me, she whispered. He started to walk closer toward her, but stopped again as she spoke. You say we are married, but where is the evidence? Where are our pictures? She said, eyeing the shelving, eyeing the tables, and he began to look around. Only half-finished manuscripts, incomplete pages, tablature of unsung songs, arts and schematics that only remained fragments of the greater, unfinished picture. He looked up at her, but she was a vibrating image, and upon eye contact, she was pulled through a great magnetism, thrown to him through atomic structures within, a force unknown, sucked into the vortex of his chest, assimilating energetic forms, and it burned, and it echoed into his ribs. The rumbling sensation amassed and pummeled up his spine. A murderous rage assaulted a region behind his eyes, arresting new ambition. He turned quickly to face new direction, and the unease quelled inside. The uncomfortable acclamation settled, but his gaze lifted to the extension of the reading theatre, where the main floor opened to reveal an adjacent room. Bookshelves extended into this sphere, revealing a cozy arena of lounge and relaxation. A fireplace hissed and crackled against its edge. It breathed heavy, and he saw the outline of a silhouette at first, seated upon his chair. The thin shadow rose fast, torso juxtaposing, its alien, angular face staring at him and grimaced. An utterance of sound, though equal to his own, as WILHUFF cried out swiftly, scanning his perimeter quickly for some object that might protect him. And as he looked back the direction, the shadow was gone, but a new form rested. He saw the outline of a man seated in similar fashion of the ghost that turned, unable to see the intruder in his chair, facing namelessly into the fire. "Wow, who's there?" he called after, but there was no response. Arm and neck twitching, minor spasms, though carried faintly, his legs unsteady, he crept into this hall. "I will have you ruined," he said. "Leave quickly, respond promptly, and maybe I'll see this well." But the invader just sat there, motionless. As he approached, crept closer now, rounding for clearer view, the horror was shy at first, before once again the electric fear came alive. He stumbled backward, falling behind as he did. It was him, and small vases and other objects crashed to the ground as he toppled into an end table. From the top of his hat to his disfigured face, as it was his body that remained slumped, and the smell of gunpowder residue now present, as he noticed the shotgun displaced, awkward, waiting to fall from the gateway, preventing gravity. WILHUFF cried aloud, and the weapon slid past the armrest, tumbling to the ground. It was a split-second decision. Her voice echoed around him. "Find in yourself forgiveness and walk home with me." "What am I searching for?" he said, so uneven in dread. "We never married. Where am I?" "Here your dreams and wishes are manifest, but you are only scouring the surface. And in this heaven's lawn, your fear is allowed to confront you." DREDMORE was quiet. "Accept your choices. Relinquish your attachment to its consequences. You've been looking for the wonder within. It is not outside of you. Come home with me." "Yes," he replied, moving his head affirming. He rose from a pit of broken decor. "It was foolish I spent so much time searching, when this vastness of inspiration was within me." And the sensations of that rising light were now felt, yet inside, it was an acknowledgement to his statement, a great replacement to the cold fear that once resided there. "You have spent many cycles in this lesson," she said as he stood. He walked away from the grim image to the central space of his study. Looking to his right, she beckoned through the vertical rectangular doorway of light. He gazed softly, entranced by her luminant silhouette as her waving arms, a sensual ebb and flow, an estranged invitation in their calling to his entrance. Things moved in the distance, and a great peace overcame him. He shyly winced at such marvel, a spectacular display as waterfalls of crystal and neon aqua shimmered beyond virtual plains of grass below the infinite expanse of a starry heaven. Breathing for moments, a man emerged with such commanding veneer forced him to recollect his days and all that he had been through. The being's presence was sound, and he heard faint echoes of methodic breathwork. He caught the scent countless pages surrounding him and looked around his home so long. "WILHUFF, my love, won't you come along?" It was a moment before he looked back to her. "I'm sorry," he said. "I do not know you, and I am late," he said, inspecting his pocket watch that resided in his vest lining. He placed it back to rest before looking at this woman. "I must meet my wife," he announced. "We have tickets to a showing," he said, and turning from the display, he marched out of his study, adorning himself in his overcoat, making his way outside to greet the eternal evening.